There's a solution, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot better work on the parents' part, the school's part for certain, because most of this occurs in the schools because the schools have the children for 8 hours a day. But I say with the advent now of Facebook and a number of other venues for kids to do this, I mean, you can be anonymous and you can terrorize other kids, and that's the biggest part about it, is you can be anonymous. And years ago it's just they had a chat room, and that's going back 10, 15 years, where kids could talk to each other, but you didn't really know who you were talking to. That was bad enough. Now you've got Facebook and a whole bunch of other venues to do it in, and that's the key, is that they can say whatever they want and they can get away with it. So I think the parents have to do a better job of talking to their children, and the schools have to get more involved. And even the kids in some of the schools are organizing groups to do something about this, and I think the schools have to recognize these kids that are doing that and build on that. And the government's got to step up to the plate too. They have to recognize that it's getting worse, and they have to seize the opportunity with some of these kids that have formed groups, and they have to use them and give them funding, organize them, help them in whatever way they can. Because I've been really impressed by reading some of the young children that have gotten involved in organizing groups within their own schools. And if I was in power, I would certainly be meeting with these kids and giving them whatever they needed to take the message. You take a small group of kids and you make it a big group. And I think that's what they have to do. So I think I'm optimistic, but it is getting worse. So they have to step up to the plate. I mean, bullying is bullying, but there's different methods that people can use. There's different reasons why people do it. And it really affects all ages. It doesn't matter if you're, right now, I mean, the big focus is on the youth because that's what you see in the newspapers. But I mean, there's certainly elderly people that get bullied too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and I think every time you see something, say a high profile case when it's in the paper, there were signs leading up to that, when somebody actually takes their own life. Once it comes out in the open, then it's tragic, but there's actually signs that led up to that. So I think we have to be better at recognizing those signs, and getting the help to the person, whoever they are, before it happens. You just really have to have a good communication with your child, and recognize something's wrong. Maybe they have a best friend or somebody that they trust enough, sit down and talk to them. And that's really what, and then once you find out something is going on, then you have to do something about it. Report it to the school, report it to the police, whoever it takes, and deal with it in some way. If you're being bullied, let's say on Facebook or by text, by anything, you have to, for starters, hold on to that record, make a written record of it if you can. And if
so you got to make a record of it.
Yeah, if you get in texts or voicemails or any kind of a record, if you can print it out, if you can maintain a record of it, on your phone or computer, and if you think there is a threat there, endangering your life or safety, then you have to take it to the police. I mean, if you're dealing with an adult, it doesn't matter what kind of a setting, whether it's sort of a racial thing, an ethnic thing, senior abuse, if you can make a recording of it, take it to the police, and hopefully they'll deal with it from there. But you have to tell somebody about it to make it stop. It's like a school kid, sending a Facebook message to another child, or a group of people sending to another child, saying that you're fat and ugly. That's probably one of the simplest forms of bullying. And that really affects some people. Some kids take that seriously, and especially when it's a group of other kids.
Especially teenagers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they're at a really sort of the self-esteem is sometimes very low at teenagers.
Yes.
Especially, let's say they just moved to a different community, to a new school. Mm-hmm. And the girl, a 15-year-old girl, may be, a pretty young girl, and some other girls are jealous. And that's all it takes for the other girls to gang up on her. Or maybe some boy shows an interest in her, and these other girls like this boy. And all of a sudden you've got a number of girls threatening the girl, bullying her, picking on her. And it doesn't matter if she's the prettiest girl in the world, if somebody's telling her that she's ugly, and they take it to heart, and it really affects them. So that's what you have to take, and you have to trust somebody enough, whether it's a family member or a parent, and take it to them, and make sure you take it to somebody that can do something about it. Okay. Hopefully the school would deal with it. If you've got a written record of some kind on your computer or phone, the school, I'm sure, especially with all the publicity around this now, the school would act on it, and I would think that the people would be, at the very least, expelled from the school, I would hope. And if that's not the end of it,
school.
Yeah, if that's not the end of it, then I think I would take it to the next level, and that would be the police.
Oh,
yeah, because then, if they continue after that point, then it almost forms a criminal harassment charge. Mm-hmm. And then you can report it to police, and they'll act on it. You don't have to be threatened, with death, to lodge a complaint with the police. You can actually charge somebody with harassment. And if somebody is phoning you on the phone, leaving messages on your phone, if they're leaving messages on your computer, messages on Facebook, that's a form of harassment, and they can be charged. If there's a complaint laid with the police and they're investigating a person, and let's say that person's being charged,
Yeah.
with harassment, if somebody else on the behalf of the suspect, threatens the person to drop that charge, they can actually be charged with obstruction, which is a separate charge. So if anybody interferes with that investigation or threatens a victim in any way, shape, or form, they can be charged with a separate offense called obstruction, because they're interfering with that investigation, and that's a fairly serious charge.
They don't, I guess they turn a blind eye, right? They don't, they know
Yeah.
it's happening, but they just ignore it because it doesn't affect them. So
Yeah,
would
that
that be in
happens, yeah.
fact them condoning bullying?
That happens, but you wouldn't be able to,
To prove
to
it.
charge anybody with that or
Yeah, you
prove
cannot
it.
charge anybody with
Because
that.
I
right?
think that's just human nature. People don't want to be involved, unfortunately, because it doesn't affect them. But the thing is, it could affect them at any time.
Really?
But now it's completely different, because now it's a groups of people, picking on one person, and that's
Like
a
the whole world sometimes.
Yeah, that's a whole different sort of story. And now, I mean, it's just society is different now, because the pressures for the kids, I think, you can't compare them to when I went to school. It just wasn't the same pressure. Now, there's so much the family structures are different now, because people are both working. So years ago when I was raised, I mean, the parents were both at home. The dad worked, the mom was always there, the families were together. Now you've got both families, both parents working,
Yes.
to try and pay the bills, so the
Yeah.
kids aren't getting that quality time with the family. And that's a huge thing. It's quite common for new immigrants to be preyed upon by people, even within their own community. I mean, the kids, for example, when you come to Canada, the kids are targeted by gang members, because the kids are new, so the gang members lure them in, and the kids are all alone, they don't have any friends in school yet, so they're very easily lured into the gangs. So that's a huge problem in the schools. And the parents
Is
are
that
no
ongoing
different.
right now,
Yeah, that's
Dave?
ongoing. I mean, young kids that, from Vietnam, from all over different
Here-
countries.
Here in Metro Vancouver?
Yeah, they come here, they're in the schools, they're by themselves, so they're very
Yeah.
vulnerable. So the gangs will draw them into their gangs. The parents are there in the same boat. They're very vulnerable. Sometimes their English isn't great, but people within their own community will prey on them. If they think that they have money or something that they can get, unfortunately, crooks come in all different colors and sizes. And it's very easy for some people are very good at it to scam other people. Well, it also depends on where you come from. In certain countries, where you come from, the police are extremely crooked. So when those people come over here, they bring those beliefs with them. So the last people they would call for help would be the police.
Right on.
Hmm?
Perfect.
No, that's true. Yeah,
That
Oh,
is very true.
That's a
That
huge
is-
barrier. So
That is very, very true.
so the police have to do, and the community members have to do a better job of assuring the people that the police here aren't like that.
that.
And most police forces now have, like the Vancouver Police has a diversity relations section. There are people that speak different languages, so I think most. and
See,
they are
most
key.
people don't know that.
Yeah,
Wait, diversity?
diversity relations. So most police forces have a section like that. They have officers
Relations
that speak.
Center.
They have officers that speak numerous different languages. So they are available, and the community members have to get that out to the people. When people get scammed, they blame themselves, so they don't want to tell anybody because they're embarrassed. And that's what the people that perpetrate the scams, want them to think.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll try and let their victims think that they're associated to a gang, to bad people, and that scares the victims. So they're not going to come forward. They believe what the people say, and that's one of the problems is that they are hesitant. They don't trust somebody enough to take that forward, and I think that's what the community members have to, be able to convince that people that there are police officers, that can talk to them. If the language is a problem, they can work around that.
I think the language is
Yeah, even
the
if you
number one
if you
problem.
phone 911, if you don't speak English, you're automatically switched, to somebody that speaks your language.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's a big part of it. But there are police officers and community offices now where you can take problems like that. But the big thing is the trust. The community members have to make these people trust somebody enough that the police will act on it, and then take your story in and tell somebody about it. And that's the first, that's the key, is telling somebody about it. There's a lot of money involved. People that perpetrate frauds have gone to jail for quite lengthy sentences. It seems to be one of those crimes that the sentences are harsher than they are against property crimes or even serious assaults. The judges in the courts, the judicial system takes frauds very seriously. In this case, there's a lot of different levels of fraud and ways to do it, and it's difficult if you form a relationship or a friendship with some people that are scamming people. If you give them access to your, let's say your credit card, You know, it becomes a gray area where you can't really charge them. But if somebody outright steals your credit card and uses it, that's a fraud and they can be charged with it. If they give you a check for something, knowing that there's no money in the account to cover that check, that's fraud. You know, and they can be charged with that. So there's a whole bunch, and it's a bit confusing. You know, but if it's an out-and-out theft of something or an out-and-out, you know, there's no money and somebody's just scammed you, they can be charged with fraud. Well, the important thing is to take it to somebody like a police officer to see if you can start that initial complaint. Don't be worried about the bullying, because I mean the court system will protect you if you put a complaint in, and if the bullying continues, the person will be arrested. You know, and it's a separate charge, like I mentioned before, about obstruction. You know, if there's an investigation going on and somebody interferes with that and threatens you in any way, shape, or form, you know, then they can be charged with an additional charge. You know, but it's important that you sit down with a police officer and talk about it to see where you can go with it. And don't believe people when they tell you all sorts of things to intimidate you and say that they're connected and they're bad guys, and you know, 999 times out of 1,000, it's just BS that they've made up, you know, to help them, you know, with their scam.
Empowerment.
Yeah, you have to talk to people, community members, you know, get together as a group. You know, if there's other people that you know that are falling victim to the same scam, you know, and find their strength in numbers, there always has been. You know, and take it to the police at some point.
Awesome.
You know, but bullies can certainly be stopped.
For example, Dave, they spent 15 to 20 grand on different credit card thing.
I mean, the key is your credit card. The bank, if you phone to report this to your bank is going to ask you where your credit card was, because if somebody doesn't have your credit card, if I didn't have my credit card, I would want to know where it was very quickly, and if I couldn't find it, I'd be on the phone to report it stolen. So if you phone your bank to try and report somebody all of a sudden using $20,000 with the bank, you may have a problem getting the bank to pay you back. You know, so anybody that's got a credit card out there, you have to make sure you keep it on yourself, and if you don't have it, you have to report it stolen or missing right away. And that's the key, because you may have trouble if all of a sudden you're out of the country but you left your credit card with somebody. You know, I mean, you could certainly still charge them because they had to forge your signature, you know, and that's just forgery. You know, and the bank should reimburse you, but if you don't have your card with you, report it stolen or lost right away. You know, that there are people, you know, that out there that will help you. So don't, when you think, you know that nobody can do anything, don't believe that. If you've got a friend that you trust, tell your friend. If you trust them, tell your parents. But you have to tell somebody that it's going on so we can help you stop it.